Hi, it's Don McLaughlin, and welcome to this brief training, Aligned Leadership, Why Your Business Growth in 2026 Depends on Who You Become. I'm so delighted that you are joining and know that this session, as it's been for clients, incredibly valuable as we launch into 2026. And we've got a fair amount to cover, and this will be interactive as well. Opportunity for you to put into action quickly some of the principles and practices that we'll be talking about over the next 30 minutes. So with that, I'm going to jump right in, and let's talk about what 2026 really demands from us and from you. Most of you probably already feel this, even if you haven't put words to it yet. The economic environment isn't getting simpler. Decisions need to be made more quickly. The stakes are higher. The emotional load on business owners in particular is heavier and heavier given the rate of change and the level of uncertainty, especially when you're the one everyone looks to for clarity, for direction, and for decisions. And the truth is that what got you where you are, your drive, your intelligence, your ability to push worked for a long time. But the next chapter asks for a different kind of leadership. And if we don't evolve how we're leading, we end up trying to meet higher demands with an outdated internal operating system. And that's what we're going to turn attention to. This is also the reality. Your business will not outgrow your leadership. This I learned painfully through the course of my early years as an entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of what quickly turned into a multi-million-dollar business. And ultimately, the business simply hit a plateau. And I realized over time that my leadership is what determined whether we would push through that plateau and really start to scale in a way that was sustainable. So this isn't a critique, it's just a reality. Every business eventually reaches the ceiling of its leaders' capacity, not their intelligence, not their work ethic, their capacity for leadership. When growth feels heavier instead of lighter and cleaner, it's usually because leadership hasn't caught up to the complexity of the business yet. The good news is this is solvable, but it doesn't get solved by doing more or working harder. It gets solved by becoming more aligned in how you lead. What do I mean by that? Well, more effort stops working without alignment. It just simply creates friction. And this is challenging for a lot of founders and business owners because early on, trying harder works, but later it quietly becomes the source of the problem and the bottleneck in the business. More effort without alignment creates this friction. More rework, more tension, more decision fatigue. You might still be getting results, but it feels heavier than it should. And you run the risk that you hit a plateau or backslide. This is where a lot of smart, capable founders and business owners get stuck. They keep pushing because pushing worked before, even though the business is now asking for a different approach. So the real question isn't, can I do this? Of course you can, because if you're even tuned in right now, you have capabilities that have delivered great results in the past. But the real question is, how am I leading when things are uncertain, uncomfortable, or unresolved, which 2026 will deliver in spades. I think we all know that. And it presents an opportunity right now to ask some fundamental questions. Am I leading from clarity? Am I leading with full presence? And am I leading with the resilience necessary to weather that uncertainty and the discomfort and the unresolved nature of so much that we face a day in and a day out? And the alternative is asking, am I leading from, instead of clarity, presence, and resilience, am I leading from urgency, pressure, and past habit and pattern? And that's where there's both the risk for plateauing or backsliding or scaling sustainably and in ways that makes leading your business more enjoyable and fulfilling rather than a grind that runs the risk that you hit both the plateau but also backslide and that terrifying feeling that the business is losing momentum. That's what businesses thrive on, and that's how they scale. Momentum. This distinction between clarity, presence, and resilience, or urgency, pressure, and past habit, this distinction matters more than almost anything else at this stage in your business. Everything we focus on ultimately strengthens one of these three pillars in my experience. Clarity determines whether you're asking the right questions and solving the right problems. Presence determines how your leadership impacts others, your clients and customers, your team, and also those most important to you. Because the reality is that as business owners and founders, we don't have the opportunity to just cleanly separate our business and our personal life. The reality is they're intertwined in ways that is very unique for business founders and owners, different than an employee who is generally more able to finish their day and not carry forward into their personal life everything related to the business. That's simply not the case. And I think every business owner knows exactly what I'm referring to. And finally, resilience determines whether you can sustain leadership without burning yourself out or becoming reactive or disengaged from the business, which again can feel like an existential threat, because if we become disengaged from the business, create the risk that the business doesn't have the direction and the energy that it needs to move forward and progress in a way that creates the momentum and the growth that is the lifeblood of any business. So these aren't abstract concepts. They show up in our daily conversations, our decisions, and how you manage yourself and your team under pressure when things get difficult. So let's start with the first, clarity. Clarity isn't about having all of the answers. It's about discernment. In this context, knowing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. This is incredibly important for business founders and owners because the risk is so significant and the margin for error is so small, right? Our decisions and the way we're leading directly impacts our teams and how we are showing up for our clients and customers. Most leadership friction comes from solving the wrong problems very well. This is a risk that I've faced again and again, and I see it in my clients. All the time and effort and attention spent to solve problems that are the wrong problems to solve. And it shows up in we stay involved in things that we've outgrown, either individually in our leadership or in the business. And we haven't zeroed in on what we should be focused on that has the opportunity to maximize the growth in the business while minimizing the risk. And it shows up in ways, personally, how we lead. We hold on to decisions that the business no longer needs us to make, for example. And that directly impacts our teams and our ability to lead them in ways that they take on more ownership. And that shows up in the way in which we're delegating or not. Clarity asks a simple but uncomfortable question. What does the business most need that actually requires my leadership right now? And what doesn't? It sounds like a very simple question, but it has such depth and dimension to it. Again, I'll phrase that question again. What does the business most need that actually requires my leadership right now, and what doesn't? When clarity improves, leadership gets lighter almost immediately. And we're going to have an opportunity in a few minutes for you to reflect on this concept of clarity and how important it is to your leadership. Let's shift in the meantime to presence. This is one of the most misunderstood leadership skills, and one that I struggled with for so long. Teams and clients and customers, they don't really respond to strategy. They respond to their experience of your delivering whatever it is you deliver to them. And said a different way, your state and how it impacts their experience of what it is that you're delivering to your clients and customers. And that goes for your teams as well. When you or they are rushed, scattered, or reactive, that energy spreads no matter how good your strategy or plan is. And clients and customers, they notice it. You've probably already had experiences that tell you clients and customers notice when that happens. But when you slow down at the right moments, you restore judgment, creativity, and authority, which is exactly what clients and customers want, right? And this is why practices like mindfulness matter so much, and ensuring that we're entering our day in the right mindset, that we show up in ways that positively impacts our teams and our clients and customers, and the way our teams impact our clients and customers. So, practices like mindfulness or a morning routine that puts us in that right mindset, they're not about creating calm just for calm's sake, or saying, I have a morning routine. They're directly related to the way you're showing up as a leader, both in your business and in your personal life. And they give you access to better thinking and space to make better decisions and act more resourcefully as a leader throughout your day. Slowing down doesn't make you less effective. It actually allows you to move faster during the course of your day without breaking things or causing disruption that then requires more effort to course correct. This is the importance of presence, and your state really sets the pace every single day in your business. That leads us right into the next core concept: resilience. Scaling isn't about intensity, right? Building momentum and growth in your business is not necessarily about intensity. It's about sustainability, because you can have, and I'm sure you've experienced this, short spurts of positive momentum or growth, followed by a period of either stagnation or retraction, contraction. And that's what I mean when I say, scaling isn't about short periods of intensity. It's about sustainably building momentum in the business, week in and week out, month in and month out, quarter in, quarter out. And when that falters, it often can be a sign of what I referred to earlier: disengagement, feeling ground down and burned out. And the truth is that those things, feeling burned out, ground down, disengage, it actually usually isn't about volume of workload. It's about misalignment that grows over time. And that misalignment is both a reflection of a lack of clarity and presence. And it shows up in pushing harder and harder without renewing and recovering, and leading without renewing your own stores of energy and creativity that results in your increased engagement in the business and your leadership. Resilience is what allows you to stay steady when things don't go as planned, which is guaranteed. I think we all know that, right? Leading a business inherently involves so much unpredictability and things sliding sideways when you didn't anticipate that happening. And resilience is what keeps you from swinging between overdrive and exhaustion, or complete engagement and then disengagement. Resilience is, again, what keeps you from swinging between those extremes that, in my experience, it leads to very unpredictable outcomes in businesses and lack of sustained momentum and growth in a business. So the key reframe here is actually very simple. That recovery, renewal, that isn't some sort of reward that you look forward to after you hit certain milestones. It's got to be part of your leadership responsibility and built within your leadership skill set, right? To create sustainable momentum and growth within your business, particularly during periods of heightened uncertainty and challenge, which, again, I think we know exists right now and likely to increase in 2026. Why? Because here, at least here in the U.S., a constantly shifting both political and economic environment that has volatility, coupled with just the pace of change with the widespread adoption of AI and the way it is so significantly shifting the way in which businesses will operate and deliver for clients and customers, and also the expectations that clients and customers have with that adoption of AI. One perfect example is one of my clients heads up a multi-million-dollar creative agency that serves big Fortune 500 clients and also rapid growth startups in the AI space. And their expectation is that things will be done faster and at less cost because of AI. This is a perfect example of how rapidly technology, and AI in particular, is changing expectations and the increased pressure that puts on us as business founders and owners. So I'm going to shift now and encourage you to pull out a pen and paper for some reflective questions and writing that will really help, I think, bring these three core concepts of clarity, presence, and resilience into actionable steps you can take immediately in just barely the 20 minutes that we've spent, so that you walk away in the next 10 minutes with, again, actionable strategies you can use to shift the way in which you are attending to these core concepts of clarity, presence, and resilience. So again, pull out a pen and paper, and I want you to listen to the prompts that I'll read here in just a second, and just write without editing or overthinking, the first things that come to mind, just get them down on paper. And then you'll have an opportunity to make better sense of them and again create actionable strategies to implement immediately. So the first question, this is a big one. Ask yourself this and write down what first comes to mind. Where am I currently misaligned as a leader? Where am I currently misaligned as a leader? Just start writing down the first things that come to mind without analyzing, overthinking. Where are you misaligned as a leader right now? And just keep writing with whatever comes to mind about where you're misaligned as a leader. And how is that showing up in your business and or in your personal life? Your misalignment as a leader, how is it showing up in your business or your personal life? Just keep writing, and when the words run out, just think about that and see what else might come to mind. How you're misaligned as a leader, both in your business and in your personal life, and how is that showing up in your business and in your personal life? There's no right answer. This is just simply about honesty and not some perfection or a plan. This is just about your level of candor and honesty with yourself, first and foremost. All right, we'll take another 30 seconds. How am I currently misaligned as a leader? And how is that showing up in my business and in my personal life? All right, just about 15, 20 more seconds, and we'll dive into the next prompt. All right, wrap up there. Our next prompt. Which of the three core concepts, the three pillars, clarity, presence, or resilience, needs my attention right now? As we've just gone through the importance of clarity, presence, and resilience and how they show in business and in our personal lives, which of those three, clarity, presence, or resilience, needs attention right now, and why? What is it about that specific concept or pillar that needs attention right now? Why do you feel like you need to give attention to one of those pillars right now? Which calls to you most? Clarity, presence, or resilience right now? Again, just write without overthinking or analyzing. Which needs your attention most right now, and why does it need attention? Clarity, presence, or resilience? Just keep writing, and when the words run out, just reflect on that. Which of those three core pillars, clarity, presence, or resilience, needs your attention right now, and why? When we connect with the risks and dangers we're facing, like emotionally, and really connect with it, that provides the fuel for making changes, which are hard. As we all know, we're creatures of habit, And changing those habits requires energy. And our frustration and our discontent with the way things are is that fuel to make changes, to shift those habits. And that's exactly where we'll go next. So just finish up the last of your thoughts on this particular writing prompt. And then we'll dive into our third and final writing prompt. Okay, great. So here's the last prompt that I invite you to reflect on and immediately start writing what comes to mind for you. What is one practice that you're willing to commit or recommit to in that pillar that needs your attention right now, that most needs your attention right now? What practice are you willing to commit to or recommit to? So with respect to clarity, perhaps that practice is to do some journaling in the morning at the start of your day, even for 3 minutes, to capture your thoughts and be able to look at them pen to paper, so that during the course of either one day or multiple days, you gain more clarity into what's going on up here, that you can start to navigate more resourcefully through the course of your day, in the way you show up as a leader in your business, but also in your personal life, given that those two are so intertwined. So is that one practice? Just some morning routine of journaling, so that you're identifying on paper where you're struggling, how you're struggling, and that you can then start to see patterns that helps you gain more clarity and navigate the challenges that you're faced with more resourcefully. Or is it presence, that you notice that you are too often distracted and in your head when you're interacting with clients or customers or team members or partners? Is it presence? And if that's what needs your attention most right now, what practice could you commit to or recommit to? Is it practicing some form of mindfulness by sitting in a chair and collecting your thoughts by just connecting with your breath, and in that way noticing more what's coming up for you, so that you can get out of your head and be more fully present? Or is it resilience, and committing to or recommitting to a practice to build more resilience? One perfect way to do that is by stretching yourself through the form of physical movement and building resilience in that way, pushing up against the envelope of discomfort in ways that expands your capacity to be resilient in the face of pressure and stress. So just finish up your thoughts there, and trust that when you return to a practice like this of asking reflective prompts and writing, you're going to both gain clarity, you're going to enhance your ability to be present, and also build resilience by working through challenges. I hope that served you. And again, returning to it, I'm confident, based on my clients' experience and my own experience, will serve you immensely in 2026. So I want to close by coming back to where we started. Your business in 2026 will be built by who you choose to be day in and day out. Your next level will not be built by doing more. It will be built by who you choose to be consistently when it matters most, both in your business and in your personal life. Alignment isn't something you choose or achieve once. It's something you practice, you notice, and you return to over and over again. This is the work. And the payoff is enormous, because when you lead from alignment, growth becomes not just possible, but inevitable, sustainable, enjoyable, and fulfilling. So I hope this brief session served you, and I look forward to future opportunities to serve and contribute. Have a great rest of the day and a terrific start to 2026. Talk soon.